Okay, I forgot to dump the trash. Need more memory, right? No memory, no batteries required. So, one of the things that I noticed this morning, particularly after everything that I've been routing, right, through the hub server, a multiversal hub server, right, certain things that I experience become noticeable, right, or what I call flags, particularly when you're dealing with a deadlight inverter that is routing its traffic, what it holds in memory that it's running as a time loop, which is the black hole beast technology. And so, one of the things that I noticed, for example, is I was going to put a link up to a video that I did yesterday that I covered about indigo children, right? And I was going to put it up on Guess Who's channel, the Emerald Covenant. Now, I had posted a number of comments about maybe a week ago on that channel, Ashay's Workshop channel, Dance for Freedom, all those videos, dance programs, everything else, right, are now gone. That account has been terminated. That's an enormous amount of what is advertised as Guardian materials that are no longer available online. So here's a question. Who really terminated that account, and why at that time? Because when I was posting the comments about being an androgynous polarity integrator, a mono, if you will, what it is, the job that I do, and I posted an enormous amount of information based on what I've learned since I came in here that I hold in memory, which is, remember when I told you folks that I only hold in memory what is relevant between the minus / the plus. It's going to have not present moment value, although it has value at the present moment that I experience it, because so much visual, mathematical information codes that relate to frequency and strands of DNA that are running inside this planetary ship, right, that has a NOMI code, which is a stealth code, why I experience what I experience, where I experience it, when I experience it, and why that's important. So this is something else that's always been very important to me, because if you go and look at all my videos, I don't have a lot of subscribers, but there's obviously an obvious reason why that is when you get into operating levels of DNA between two planetary magnetic poles that deal with negative / plus. What we hold in memory, what we don't hold in memory, because so much visual, graphical, geographical, mathematical information, which represents codes, which represents frequencies, which represents software that's plugged into a Gaia motherboard, 3, that is running simultaneously, because we're all connected to each other like nodes in a network, communicating with each other what we're learning. Enter accelerated learning. I can tell you for a fact, because I've experienced it myself. When you're experiencing an eternal sun through your DNA software, you're running a higher speed magnet than anybody else that isn't. That's knowing one from the other. That's known as an eternal living light magnet and a dead light magnet. That's knowing one from the other, right? So when it's in its best interest, right, to what? Maintain its self-interest by what it's feeding on, as the energy which represents the soul energy that represents what we are, that it's been siphoning energy off of. Now you plug into the shields up side of it that I've shared in other videos and put that into the blender mathematically, geometrically, as a graphical user interface of what we're held captive to by what's held captive in memory. This what being held in memory through the system, which represents the beast, and why it was allowed to stay open for a given period, what? Time-space vectors, based on the software, based on the consciousness that is running those vectors, right? Between, if you will, multiple timelines, even though there's only one crystal, spiral, time wave, 0. That's no time. You're experiencing an eternal sun. Now you get into the issues between multidimensional learning, which is really multidimensional and multi-density learning, by experiencing the codes and the frequencies that are being run by all the strands that are being experienced by all the units of software that are experiencing what they're experiencing by virtue of the codes and frequencies that they're running as an antenna. I run a cosmic level antenna because I am an eternal spirit of fire. That's why I can light myself on fire, which is full recalibration. Because that means that the map codes that represent the frequency codes upon which the founders, for which I'm connected, run. Now you enter into the indigos, why the indigos were created, because at the end of the day, what we're talking about is acceleration and the speed of learning. So a black hole, deadlight magnet, is not going to learn faster than eternity. So when it begins to realize how fast, using the exponential function, using its quantum probability function, it's trying to estimate the time at which it goes bye-bye, which is implosion. That's why it plays the game that it does, which is binary, not trinary. Okay? So you realize that if you're an inverter and accumulating electrons, by virtue of the way that the system is set up through a corporation, you understand what a copyright is. Copy the right-hand side. That's the positive side, right? You have the negative and the positive. So this is one of the reasons why, since I was a little child, I don't charge anybody when you're running no charge, which is direct current. So I'm running on direct current, but you obviously have to meter the biovoltages you're experiencing here. Otherwise, I would burn everything up inside the planet that isn't running eternity. That stands to reason. That's pure logic, right? So that's one of the reasons ever since I was a little boy, and I've shared this with everybody else, I'm giving everything away versus wanting to accumulate one electron. So if you copyright something, what that means is that you have a monopoly or you have an interest in making sure that the information that's represented by what you experience has value, monetary value. That's how inverters work. So what that means is that I can have information, right? Visual, mathematical information that represents a template, which is a grid network. I will share it with you for free. Okay? Because don't you think that an eternal Son, which is the one true God, will want you to be able to experience what it is, which I do, and share with you what it is I've experienced, and do that at no charge, which means you don't have to send me any money, you don't have to send me any electrons in order for me to be able to share with you the map grid, the original creation template that I experience in me, I share with you. Those are the codes that we share, which means I'm not requiring any donations of any electrons, and I don't put a copyright on anything, okay? Because I do not hold energy captive, not one electron, okay? That means that when I come on my channel and share with you what I share with you, okay, any money that you would ever send me, I am going to get rid of it as fast as I possibly can. And do it how? Give it to those that need it. Okay? Which is what? The biovoltage of the planet. The circulation libraries on the planet that are running on electrons. Right? Electronic data. The visual information data on an electromagnetic spectrum. That's electromagnetically, dynamically linked libraries, which represents what we're breathing in and out that we're experiencing. So this morning, when I realized, for example, last week, when I was getting all these hearts from that channel, from the Emerald Covenant channel, it was like, thank you very much, because anybody that sends me a heart automatically goes right back to Mama. Okay? And because she's the one that lives in my heart and soul, and why I'm here. Okay? Which is why we're here now. For all the reasons that I've shared and so many other channels have shared, which was to make sure that their failure was not an option. Okay, that we were not going to allow the interstellar activation not take place. Why we voted, like I've mentioned before in the past, why we voted to be here when we're here, right? And the stuff that I've shared in the past about how you reverse engineer what's been reversed engineered in order to be able to return what you already hold as the original, right? The original language of the founder races, which means we have the ability, as I mentioned before, to be able to transmute, okay, how the fire letters work that have been reversed, which is the reversal current, and make sure that the proper one is the one that we run. So that basically means it's collapsing anything that represents a reversal current. And that's what a mono can do. Right? And this is why I mentioned this before about being able to be willing to be programmed, have the language programmed. The fire letters are represented by what it is, by virtue of what's held in memory that's running off of memory. Because now we're back to the minus slash the plus of what we choose to hold in memory, memory plus, memory minus. So I realized that there was a certain length of time in which I was willing to have programmed into my memory what is represented by the alphabet soup of those letters that are represented by fire, right? Of what I'm learning now that's going to have future value. Because the future value that it's going to have is why we're here to begin with. And being able to communicate to others using the English language that's already been transmuted from what it once was into what it has been torque converted into, that you therefore experience. It's like Irina Goya. I'm speaking to her in English, which is code, right? But when she experiences the English language being communicated to her in text, and she says, boy, brother, you're carrying codes. That means that those codes that represent those fire letters and those communications are being properly transmuted and thus translated in the proper way in which it is being experienced by the other, by what she feels with her soul, which represents the original language of the founder races. Okay? Otherwise, when I came in here and I'm programming the English language into the alphabet soup of what's held in memory, wouldn't have allowed me to be able to do the job that I did as a polarity integrator. You see how that works? Which is zero time. There's only what love is. That's the eternal sun. So that's what I experience in me. That's what I share with you, right? As a little child, right? I'm still at the center point of creation, that eternal sun. That's the eternal spark. That's the spark of life, right? And so now when I go back to want to put what a link to the video that I did yesterday about indigo children, that I was going to share that with Asha Deanne's channel, right, of the Emerald Covenant, now it's gone. So I went back to scroll back through to see if I could find any of the hearts that she gave me a week ago of all the comments. Now they're all gone. You see how that works? And this is particularly true when it comes to the acceleration of learning through code transfers, right? When it comes to the separation between spirals, right? Remember, it's scanning, looking for dates and times, right? What we experience in the future based on what we experience in the past that we hold in memory, and what we choose not to hold in memory based on the codes that represent the frequencies of a radio set, a radio star network. So I wanted to share this and push it into the morphogenetic wave form harmonics of the planetary consciousness terrain. And why do that, right? And pushing it in. And why I'm doing it, when I'm doing it, where I'm doing it. On that platform. That inverted platform. Because that's what it is. It's a deadlight magnet. Putting information into a deadlight magnet. Now it's running the information that I represent, which is in deadlight magnet. So those that are not running a deadlight magnet will be able to experience what I put in as a living eternal magnet, which is what love is. It goes on forever, gifting electrons. Right? So that's what it fears. And that actually is what we call the underlying center point of causality of why there are wars, timeline wars, genetic engineering wars, based on timeline wars when there's only one wave that all creation began with, which is the atom seed, the crystalline atom seed spiral, right, of crystalline records, crystalline consciousness that represents an eternal sun, which is experiencing eternal unconditional love. And that means the highest acceleration of electrons is being distributed equally, which is the equal distance in the center point of an eternal star. So that eternal star is experiencing eternal consciousness, which is eternal love. And that means equal distribution, which is the equal distribution water tables of experiencing an eternal star. Right. So this is when I go back to childhood, for example, and you realize the obvious when you're 4 and 5 years of age is money's not going to buy you happiness. Matter, material matter, what's in the projection screen is not what's going to buy you happiness. You can't buy love. Doesn't work that way. That's inverted. Love is a vibration. It's feeling the vibration. It's having the energy in motion as the emotion, which is to experience the most powerful scalar waves of an eternal spirit of fire that's on fire to create worlds born out of what love is, with DNA born out of water worlds that are on fire to create. Yeah. Have a great day. We love you all. Be good to yourselves.